public that does call in or goes online, they'll have to make sure that they state who they are so that Jay can keep track of that. We do have one adjustment to the agenda. We had to add Resolution 419.
It's on.
Right, but it was not in the published.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
And so I just need to make sure the board's okay with adding that item
Yes.
onto there. Yeah. Anyway, so go back to the beginning to the consent agenda. So we need to have the consent agenda approved. Is there a motion?
Move approval of consent agenda. Second.
It's moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
So I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Looking at the write-offs and vouchers, it looked as though the amount of the write-off was markedly decreased, like about 50%.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
A year ago, it was 462,000.
Yeah.
Now it's down to around 140 something.
That's, congratulations. But, you know, for those of us not on the finance committee to notice it. That's wonderful.
It was good work.
Dr. Ensign, welcome. We did make one adjustment to the agenda. We added Resolution 419 to it, so we'll get into that in a minute. But we've gone through the consent agenda, voted and approved it. So now, is there any points of order? Hearing none, we'll go into Resolution 418. If Jake would be so kind as to read it for us.
You bet. So Resolution 418, as soon as my computer decides to open up.
Oh, gosh. Here he goes. Yes, give it to him.
Do we need to read?
We don't need to read the whole thing. I'll just
Paraphrase, summarize it.
summarize. So Resolution 418 is a resolution that would authorize or a ballot initiative for increasing the regular property tax levy rate from 0.07 cents per thousand to up to 50 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. This is a 1-year permanent levy lid lift, meaning the levy would increase by more than the allowable threshold for only 1 year. After that point, it would increase according to statute year to year, and the new increased rate would be used as the base rate for future levy calculations. And again, this is typically you can only increase a levy by 1% a year, unless you put it out to vote, and put a ballot initiative out. So if this is approved by the voters, then this would increase by greater than the 1% limit.
So could you clarify, I mean, we're talking from 7 cents on 1,000 to 50 cents on 1,000. What does that mean in terms of percent of increase? Because you're comparing those numbers to the 1% that you're allowed to increase per year.
So I don't have what that percent increase is in front of me, but I can do a quick.
No, I mean, it's just something that I think
it's a great, right.
we need to compare apples and pears.
Sure.
It's roughly a 5-time increase. It's from 7 cents to 50 cents. It's 43 cents.
Yeah, but so is 7 cents per thousand, is that 1%?
Oh, you mean of the total?
Yeah, that we would normally be allowed to increase the amount. You're not following?
No.
Statutorily, it goes up 1% a year.
Okay,
Right.
so 1% is how many cents per 1,000?
It's less than a cent, because it's 0.7, so it would be 0.007. So,
4% was very, very small. Very, very small.
Yeah.
So essentially, our levy rate has not changed. I don't know if I can say since its inception, because I don't know what it was at.
Well,
in
certainly
its-
not in our
Quite a long
lifetime,
time.
in our board experience.
Right.
I was just curious.
Well, the other thing I think that needs to go on the record is the fact that we did have a work session over this, getting all the information together and really hashing it out on what to do. And the fact that Whidbey Health is like third or fifth from the bottom of the lowest funded from tax dollars in the state of Washington.
Yep.
Out of all the hospitals. And so we're just we're not moving way up up on the totem pole there, but you know, we need more help. We're on the right path right now, going the right direction, and we just need the additional help to keep this going the way we are. It's improving day to day. And
I think it's important to read from, as part of the resolution, two portions that I'd like to read. One is the purpose of the levy increase. The purpose of the proposed levy lid lift or levy increase is to ensure continuous operations of Whidbey Health Medical Center and clinics, to provide funds to replace and upgrade the district's medical equipment and facilities, aid in recruitment and retention of healthcare personnel, and meet the health needs of the entire community as they evolve. And then the actual verbiage for the ballot proposition. So I'll go ahead and read that. This is what would appear before the voters in their voter handbook or on the ballot. The Commission of the Whidbey Island Public Hospital District, Whidbey Island, Washington, Whidbey Health, adopted resolution number 418 concerning a proposition to increase the district's regular property tax levy. If approved, this proposition would provide funds to ensure continuous operation of Whidbey Health Medical Center and clinics, including replacement and improvement of medical equipment and infrastructure, to aid in recruitment and retention of healthcare personnel, and to meet the current and future healthcare needs of residents and visitors. The proposition authorizes a maximum regular property levy rate of 50 cents per $1,000 of assessed value for collection in 2022. The 2022 levy amount would become the base for computing the limitations for levies in subsequent years as provided by Chapter 8455 RCW. Should this proposition be approved? Yes or no? So that's the verbiage that would appear on the voter ballots.
I think there's a couple other factors that, at our work session, we had someone from the state explain to us the parameters around what we could and could not ask for. And we are not asking for the maximum by any means. The maximum could have been up to 75 cents
Yes, that's correct.
per thousand assessed value. So we kind of took a middle road, not totally middle, but we took a more conservative view, as we do on most all of our finances. But we do need to do something about our levy and get us off of the basement level of the tax monies going to various hospitals in our state.
Is there any other questions or comments or discussion? Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 418 for the increase in the levy as outlined in the resolution itself.
I do have one question. I don't know if are we going to allow a public comment period prior to approval of?
Didn't we have that last,
Oh,
at our
at the work
board?
session,
They had an opportunity.
Yeah.
for that.
Okay, I got it.
So I'll renew my motion for approval of resolution 418.
Second?
Any other discussion, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Voted unanimous to go forward. Thank you, Jake. Now, into resolution 419, which was the added one.
So resolution 419 is declaring surplus property as set forth under state law. When the district has extra personal property that is no longer of use to the district, we are required to declare it under resolution as surplus. no longer necessary for the operations of the district. And that's what this resolution does, and directs the CEO to dispose of in his best judgment. In this case, the surplus property in question are a number of, I think there's 4 ambulances that have gone past their useful life limit. And I believe all of them are kind of just taking up space at this point. 2 of them are still drivable, and as a side note, that we had just recently learned that there was an EMS system up in Sequim that suffered a fire. They lost 2 of their rigs in the fire, and they've been asking around to see if anybody has any rigs they can spare to help maintain good operations and provide EMS services. So 2 of our rigs that are surplus, although they're beyond our useful life limit, they do still run. So we are looking at donating those to that EMS system so that they can continue to serve their patients.
And Sequim's kind of the size of, say, like Oak Harbor.
Yep.
You know, a small community, and I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, you know, we have no use for them, and we really don't get anything for
Give them a
them.
good deal.
And
$1 a rig.
yeah, but I think it's a really good outreach thing for us as a small community to help them. Because you can't just go down to the car lot and pick up 2 new rigs. I mean, it's going to take them a while to get the replacement, but this will at least provide them a backup for their EMS system. So I think it's a good thing for
Good
us to
idea.
do.
Right.
I move to approve the resolution 419 regarding the surplus ambulances.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved. Thank you. So Jake, the board also approved for us donating the 2 rigs to the EMS system over in Sequim.
It's the CEO.
Right. I mean, I just want to make sure the board backs it for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be back Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Jake, we are into public comment. Is there any?
So we are in the public comment period. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment? If you wish to make a public comment, I'm just messing with the computer here. Oh. If you wish to make a public comment, if you could please click the raise hand button on your screen. We'll give a minute or 2 to see if anybody wishes to do that. Everybody's screen is frozen.
Okay.
It does not appear there are any public comments at this time.
All right, and moving on to our medical staff report. Dr. Scheit, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, good. So I'd like to present initial appointments for medical staff. Our first one is Renee Burnett. She's a registered nurse practitioner in family medicine here at Cabot. She just started. She's been fantastic. Dr. Corson, cardiology, provisional. Dr. Cortina, pathology, provisional. And Dr. Jean Robinson, general surgery, provisional courtesy.
Move approval of initial appointments.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Next is advancements. Karen Ellington, she's a nurse practitioner at our sleep center from active to provisional. Diane Tremaine, a nurse practitioner, primary care, provisional to active. Dr. Calhoun, teleradiology. Dr. Connor, teleradiology. Dr. Grennan, teleradiology. Dr. Henley, teleradiology, Dr. Jaxa, teleradiology, Dr. Jalazai, teleradiology, Dr. Kuo, teleradiology, Dr. McCormick, radiology, Dr. Knightlick, radiology, Dr. Chirashi, teleradiology, Dr. Rouveau, radiology, Dr. St. Clair, Dr. Stone, Dr. Welty, Dr. Farmeyer, all, oh, that one's telepsych. Those are all radiology. Dr. Miradar, oncology, and Dr. Rookstool at our walk-in clinic, all provisional to active for advancements.
Move approval of the advancements.
Second. Moving second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Move.
Reappointments, Dr. Garth Miller, general surgery, Dr. Robert Wagner, pediatrician, and Dr. Dan for internal medicine, all for reappointments.
Okay, you broke up just a little bit, Dr. Scheit. The last one was Dr. Danauer.
Dr. Dan Nauer, internal medicine. Sorry.
Thank you. Move approval of reappointments.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And we still have a temporary OB-GYN for locum tenens, Dr. Davis, for this.
Yeah, it was decided that Dr. Davis should remain on temporary privileges for the time being. I move approval of that.
Second?
Correct.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move. Okay.
That's for that, for policies. Basically, these were existing policies that with our DNV accreditation just needed a couple additions added to them on transferring and making sure that, like for instance, on the patient transfers, that if we're transferring a patient, that a transfer order or dictation discharge summary would be done prior. So number 10 is just the new kind of in addition to our current policy. That's for patient transfer. For same thing. Mainly it's just saying that documentation needs to be completed within a certain amount of time. This was all just in response to our DNV certification.
Move approval of transfer policy. Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And the next one for consultation, same thing. The only change is that all the documentation must be completed and dictated and recorded in electronic medical record within 24 hours of seeing the patient. So again, a current policy just updated for consultations.
And all of these were discussed at MEC and
Credentials.
basically, so we've gone through all that already, so this is coming through the board.
Correct.
Right.
We went through them all at our MEC. Yeah.
Move approval of consultation policy.
Second?
Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
And the last one's just anesthesia services. Again, this was approved a couple months ago, but just made a few updates in verbiage. So that's all that would happen for anesthesia services.
Move approval of anesthesia services policy update.
Second?
Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Anything else, Dr. Scheit?
No, I think that's it for me today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on. Human resource, Debbie, are you on?
Yes, she's there.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm sure Melanie will be bringing it up, but I look forward to speaking to you today about marketing and employee health. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's start with the next one, and we'll start talking about all the marketing and community relations work. Starting with recruitment, we have a focus both in provider and employee recruitment. And I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody listening that recruiting is difficult across all industries across this country. It's just tough right now, even more so in healthcare. And so we're being creative and trying even new avenues about the ways in which we bring people in, and we're taking advantage of our marketing expertise. And so we have a focus. We're targeting our demographics, and we're going to have a sustained campaign both for various markets and outside the island as needed as well. And we are going to be participating in a couple of conferences and have a career table there. And we're going to have the opportunity to speak to how amazing Whidbey Island is and to encourage people to work and live here. So that is some terrific work that's going on. In terms of the Whidbey Health Community Pharmacy, we've been touting that we're looking forward to opening that. We are planning a soft opening in August, so there's a lot of work around that, and there will be a sustained campaign, so you'll continually see, but it started with some staged pictures since it really isn't all set up and good to go. So it'll be fun to watch that evolve. And then our swing bed program, of course, that had a planned start in June and implementation in July. There's sustained campaign around that, as we need to really campaign both business to business and business to community to really bring awareness to other healthcare organizations in the community about the service that we have. Coming up, I feel like movie theater sign, right? Coming soon, hospital and palliative care program. And so it's going to be a road show. Really, it's a marketing effort with collateral, web and social media to generate interest. And the campaign will be focused on public speaking engagements and communication education with a consistent branded approach for information. There's going to be further meetings with Dr. Sanders and Carla Jolly needed to develop presentation decks. And so a lot of work going into that. And coming up in August is Tour to Whidbey. So we have some marketing support for that. And look forward to seeing many of you out there. I'll actually be out there volunteering as you cycle by. And then the Pulse, in addition to highlighting employees and providing updates from our CEO and commissioners, the Pulse serves as our long-form connection to the community. And so Whidbey Health, since it's a healthcare system, the Pulse each month will work towards illustrating exactly how large we are regarding the services and care that the community can have without leaving the island, from the clinics to the hospital and all the access that people have to us. June's Pulse was the third month that the physical copies were delivered to libraries and senior centers as an additional point of access. And July's and subsequent issues are being migrated towards the earliest point in the month. So that transition takes a few months, you know, to go from the last week to the third week to the second week. So we're creeping up there. But for example, the August will be issued the first week of August instead of the last. So that's been some long-term movement that you've seen over the last few months. Now let's look at employee health. Oh, sorry.
Wait. So we have a question from one of our commissioners. I think it's very appropriate.
Yeah, one of the issues that has repeatedly come up is the treatment and access to care for veterans, and realizing that some of their services that are available for them through VA programs take a long time to get authorized in the VA, and then there is a lot of confusion both about what we are accepting and what we're doing in terms of access to care for them, whether it's inpatient or emergency or walk-in clinics and that sort of thing. And I spent some time talking with their service officer who really did a lot of sleuthing for me to find out some of the discrepancies and things that the veterans are saying and hearing, and what their concerns are. And I'm wondering whether or not it wouldn't behoove us to have in the post, for example, have a veterans section where
Love that
we can
idea.
update and keep up to date so that they know what sort of the latest policy, or if there's an opening, or if we're not giving care under certain auspices, but that it is explicit and transparent what we're able to do and not able to do. And I think also it is an opportunity that if there is something that the veterans ought to be doing to sort of demand care, whether talking to their legislator or talking to the VA itself, that it could be a place where you could have a call for action, so that instead of having them angry at us, that sort of they focus on the people who can do something about it, which is the VA itself. So I just pose that as a way of, if we don't have a veterans liaison person, that at least we have a recognition that there's a huge number of veterans on our island and their families, and that we ought to be paying attention to them.
Dr. Kammermeyer, I love that. That's a great suggestion, and we'll see what we can do to take advantage of that great space to put that word out. So thank you.
Okay,
Good comment, thank you.
go on.
Okay, so on to employee health and the incident and injury metrics that we're going to look at. The 4 incidents in the month of June, 2 of those did result in workers' compensation claims, excuse me, with time loss, and 2 incidents were first aid only. And then when we talk about employee action items, really the COVID-19 emergency, there's a temporary standard. Our employee health department has been busy doing hazard assessments. And so those are in process. The COVID-19 plans in development and going to be rolling out. And with that comes some training requirement. So to talk a little bit about the COVID-19, the emergency temporary standard, the standard lists specific requirements in regards to protecting healthcare employees from exposure to COVID-19. And as part of the requirement, specific area hazard assessments need to be performed to determine the potential departmental exposures and then therefore what controls need to be in place. So these assessments are currently being conducted. And then once the assessments are completed, there's a requirement for the COVID-19 creation, and that plan is being finalized, detailing specific policies and procedures which are required now by OSHA. So most of Whidbey Health's current processes are in compliance with the new requirement, but some may need some tweaking to become compliant. So we'll report more on that at our next meeting to talk about what changes have been identified and what we've rolled out and will be rolling out going forward. And then the training will be provided on the contents of that. Needs to be released within 30 days of the emergency temporary standards implementation. So it's coming here within weeks. And employee health is working in conjunction with the infection prevention and education department to prepare all those training materials. So a lot of great work being done there by Derek Fisher. Thank you very much. As far as the HR.
Debbie, before you move on, we talked about it before on the injury and the incident. Did we ever break that down as far as what departments were the injuries through, nurses, or was it through maintenance personnel? How did that break out?
I am so sorry. I need to do that, and we'll do so next month.
Yes, just so we know that if it's, the nurses treating patients that are getting injured, or if it's a maintenance guy, or,
Right.
supply person.
Yeah, it wasn't out of the demographics about which departments of populations work in, but to your point, I mean, it would make sense that therefore more would be nurses, et cetera. So we'll give you those specifics without getting into the departments. Look at the larger groups so that we're not identifying individuals. Would be fine.
Yeah, correct. Thank you.
My apologies.
And your meat doesn't count. Okay.
Was there another question?
Yeah.
No, it was just the bosses.
Just my knee
Complaining.
is hurting and I'm complaining.
Oh, well then let's get through this for you. Okay, somebody send some Tylenol up.
Yeah, he
Okay,
doesn't
so-
Oh,
count.
come on.
He's exempt.
Why are you bending it?
Because I'm trying to stop it.
Back to HR.
We'll help you with that after the board meeting.
Monday, we're going to be welcoming Loretta Robin to the team. She'll be sitting up front in our area and taking on a specialist role. So just putting her name out there, don't have her picture yet, so we'll introduce her better later. Education department update, want to talk about just a few things there, some student shadows going on, patient safety companion training, and de-escalation training is coming up this Saturday morning. So let me just start, I'll go backwards and make a plug for that first. Employees may sign up for free for the de-escalation training that's happening Saturday morning, and you can sign up for that in HealthStream. We're real excited about the partnership and the training that is going to be provided Saturday morning. So for more information, you can either seek out Christy in the education department or look for the details online. As for the patient safety companion training, we have rolled out something that education was working on, but actually escalated it with some just-in-time training paired with the DNV audit, and managed to get about 120 people trained within a matter of days by some work across all shifts. So that was an amazing effort, and special kudos to Christy for that. In terms of the shadows, we have spoken in the past about student shadows. We've had an exciting opportunity that actually is going to be a good lead into the recruiting and retention. And we had an applicant who was hoping to have a day shadowing in an area to make sure that that was a good fit. It was a slightly different environment than where she had done a very similar job. And so we've been able to do some creative things like that and have that person in it. It was very successful. So we continue to look for other ways pairing with education and marketing, the ways in which we bring great people into the organization. So really excited about that. And it's important to bring great people into the organization, but even better if we work on retention. And so we're putting efforts in to that end for ongoing employee satisfaction. We'll be rolling out now a kudos program that you'll be hearing more about and seeing. But the glass case is being populated outside of the HR department that will house both prizes for the wellness program and for the kudos program. And just finding additional ways to express better our appreciation for all employees. And that also is a good feed into the patient experience project, because in order for patients to have good experience, that obviously starts back in HR, even getting the right employees into those positions and the way that we perpetuate the positive culture. And so a lot of great work being done there. And one way in which to measure that is to connect it to performance management. And we are updating a module in Kronos to actually pair the performance management programming there. And reviews will be done this year in an improved way that connects better to the values that we want to perpetuate as an organization. So really excited about the work that is going on there. And I think Melanie. Oh, okay. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Thanks for your patience as I got through all of that.
Well, thank you. Okay, moving on to the best one of the day. She's going to tell us how great we're doing. Jennifer.
I'm gonna try. Good afternoon. Nancy. Okay, so for inpatient utilization, you can see that we are projected to end our year real close to budget, just a little bit over budget at 1%. Even though June or May, sorry, I put June in there, I'm talking May numbers. So we had 145 admissions and 403 patient days in May. June was a little lower, which you'll see next month as far as finances go. Our average daily census is sticking right around budget too at 13.5. I think if you'd asked them this week, they're shooting for a lot more than that. So are there any questions about that? I think another thing of interest is the length of stay. We're staying right under 3 days, which is important for our critical access status, to stay under 3 days. And I guess that's all I have for inpatient, unless there are questions.
No?
No? So outpatient, you'll see they're just busy as everything. And in May, they were up over the year before, and in June, also up over the year before, in the emergency room, in outpatient procedures, in hospice, and in the ambulance runs. Inpatient procedures are just a little bit down. Next, I have a little bit of information on the emergency and walk-in clinics that you asked for, Greta. Although we're still looking at acuity, we're really taking a deep dive into the ED charges right now, so I'll have more information for you coming up. But you can see that I put the walk-ins next to the emergency department, and although the ED went down in February, they've all been just increasing basically at the same rate since March. So it doesn't look to me like the ED is going down because of the walk-in. I think it's just more appropriate acuity. And again, I'll have more of that information for you hopefully next month. Any questions about outpatient?
Yeah, is it possible, Jennifer, that this data that you have for the emergency versus walk-in could be like a separate line in that upper?
Sure. Yep.
You know, so that it's easier to compare than the specifics if you're seeing the number of emergency room visits versus the walk-in clinic just side by side. I don't want to burden you with extra work, but I wondered if it might be.
That's not a hard one, so no problem.
Well, let me think about some harder then.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. So stepping right to the income statement, you'll see that our charges were way over budget at 17% over budget. Other operating revenue, our total expenses were under budget by 3%. And so we ended up with quite a good profit. I shouldn't say profit, excess earnings at the end of the month of almost 5 million. And year to date, that brings us up to negative $500,000 on the operating side. So we are beating budget both by capturing more charges, being really busy, and our managers are doing a really great job of controlling their expenses. Any questions about that?
When you're talking about days cash on hand, is that correct? Is that comparable to the 31.2?
31.2 includes all of our Medicare advance monies that we have and all of our reserved monies we have for bond payments, etc. It's a little bit inflated on that balance sheet because we had a really large tax revenue deposit that goes to pay out our bond payments. So it's a teeny bit inflated on that May balance sheet. Melanie, if you want to go to the next page, just because of that, we had about $2.5 million extra there that we're sitting waiting to pay.
And so is it correct?
Pardon?
Is it correct to compare that 31 to last month's 3?
No, you need to take about 22 days off of that to compare.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I wish.
So, yeah, yeah,
One of
I
these
like,
days.
I saw that, and I just said, what?
No.
So we're going like from 3 to 9?
Correct. And then I paid it
Okay.
almost all out the next day. So as I said, that's pretty overinflated right there, but it is
Yeah.
a balance sheet as of that day. So
Okay, so we're about at 9, is that?
no, right now today we're about negative 1.5 on our operating cash, and we're sitting at 22 and a half total.
Okay.
So let's see what else is here. Our receivables of almost $19 million. I don't know what's interesting here for y'all to see, but I knew I hadn't given you a full balance sheet for quite some time. So I thought it would be interesting to see. We have current liabilities of almost 21 million. Some of that could probably be classified at just over current to long term. But still, that means those need to be paid out within a year. Our long term is just as it sounds, over a year when they're due. And then you can see our retained earnings at the bottom there on the right hand corner, matches your income statement at $540,000 year to date. Any questions about that? I know I'm running through it quick. Nope. That's all I got, unless you have questions.
Any questions from the board?
I've been asking.
You've been asking. Greta will get you some more. She'll think of some tough
Okay.
ones.
I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Going on to outpatient clinic report. Dr. Miller, are you there?
I am. Good afternoon, everyone. I think the overarching theme for the outpatient clinics is that we are very busy, and at the same time, we are constrained by lack of human resources. Each of our clinics is short-staffed, both from staff and provider resources, and so it's a good news, bad news situation. We could be a lot busier if we had more staff and more providers, and it is becoming a problem for some of our patients having to wait to get in, and having to wait to getting the phone answered and things like that. But we are working very closely with our HR department, Debbie, to try to solve this problem, which, as you probably know, is a nationwide problem of not having enough employees in these very competitive positions. So as you recall, we have 10 outpatient clinics, 5 rural health clinics, and then 5 specialty clinics. Starting with the rural health clinics at Cabot, our largest clinic. We do have some good news. We just brought on Renee Burnett, an ARNP. She just started a couple of weeks ago, and we have finished contract negotiations with another ARNP, Jetta Hogan Miller, who hopefully will be starting with us at Cabot this fall. We have 2 highly qualified candidates for providers as well that we are in the process of recruiting, and hopefully that will help as time goes on if we can secure those 2 candidates. We continue to have problems with our phone system, the My Telephone system at Cabot, and I know Brett and our IT department is working diligently to try to solve that problem. It is a source of ongoing frustration for our patients and our staff, and we're doing everything we can to try to resolve that. Freeland, we're losing one of our most highly valued providers who's moving on to different field, and that's P.A. Jones. His interest and love is behavioral health, and a behavioral health clinic on the mainland recruited him away from us. So we're going to be looking to replace him. Our walk-in clinics, as you saw, are growing steadily. We're having trouble with staffing there as well. We've lost some providers. We've lost some providers due to illness and or injury and or changing their roles, and we're recruiting replacements as quickly as we can. We have 3 good candidates that we're looking at right now that we hope to bring on board there, but the walk-in clinics are doing very well. And they don't seem to be cannibalizing our ED. I think what we're seeing is just an overall growth and more appropriate use of the walk-in clinics. So that's a really good thing for everybody.
Dr. Miller,
Yes.
just a question about the walk-in clinics. Are they still doing the sort of overflow of patients that would normally be seen in Cabot and in Freeland?
They were up until very recently. They have now become so busy with the true walk-in clinic patients that they are no longer able to do that overflow. We've actually been able to temporarily bring Dr. Langrock back from the walk-in clinic to work in Cabot. And he is taking over that role of seeing those overflow patients at Cabot right now. And that actually just started a couple of days ago. So hopefully we will still be able to get those ED follow-up and and hospital follow-up patients seen in a timely fashion now that he's at Cabot providing that service.
And so who at the walk-in clinics did we lose?
Well, we lost Dr. Langrock temporarily.
Oh, yeah.
And P.A. Muller reduced his FTE to work in surgery to help us with our total joint program. And one of our other providers reduced his FTE for personal reasons.
Okay. Okay. I didn't think we did that. Okay.
The key players.
In our sleep center, we're staying steady there. If you want to have an in-house sleep study, you have to wait 68 days. We're recruiting another sleep tech to try to speed that process up. We haven't really had any takers yet. They're very competitive. That's a very competitive position. We've been affected somewhat by the recall of this CPAP machine, and that has resulted in a slight reduction in the number of studies that we can do until a replacement machine is available. And the information about that recall is on our website, if anybody needs to look at that. In our women's care clinic, we did a service line reassessment, a kind of a pause for a couple of weeks. We were struggling with dramatic increase in volume associated with the closure of the Naval Air Station's OB service. We are going from around 200 deliveries a year to now it looks like over 300 deliveries of a year, and that's been coincident with losing one provider. Actually, we're about to lose 2 providers, one to retirement and the other to move on to another position. So we spent quite a bit of time looking at what the proper model should be going forward in that service line. And we now have that, we think, figured out, and we are trying to staff up to that model, which will involve 4 MD DO providers, 3 nurse midwives, and then the appropriate staff to support them. And so we're working diligently to recruit that particular combination of providers to sustain and support the increased volume that we're seeing. In orthopedics, the total joint program is going well. In general surgery, we are losing 1 provider, but we think that we can continue our general surgery services using a combination of 2 full-time providers and then several per diem or part-time providers to help with call. And so we've got two per diem general surgeons that have been recruited and retained, and one has already started working. The other will be starting work later this week. That's Dr. Robinson, who you just approved for privileges. Wound care is staying busy. Dr. Robinson, who just got credentialed, will also start working in the wound care part-time to help us as our volume grows there. In our medical ambulatory clinic, which actually is where we take care of oncology patients, infusion patients, and also cardiologists and nephrologists come and do consult, that also remains busy. We had been hampered by a loss of nurses a couple months ago. We have replaced most of them as of this time. And finally, we are nearing completion of negotiations to recruit a urologist, which will be a new service line. And it will be part of general surgery. And we hope that that will be a big advance for our patients so that they won't have to leave the island to get the urologic care. So that hopefully, that service line will hopefully be up and running within the next few months.
Dr. Miller, is that going to be a shared FTE with another facility, or is it full-time with us?
It is full-time with us.
Thank you.
It's really
And
nice. To
the next thing is just to let you guys know that our rural health clinics are due for reaccreditation by the end of this year. We have 3 of them that are fully accredited that are due for reaccreditation, and then the 2 walk-in clinics have been surveyed, but they've never been accredited, and we are going to add them to the accreditation process so that by the end of the year, all 5 of our rural health clinics will be accredited. Any questions?
What are you doing in your spare time?
Just
phenomenal.
Yes, he stays close to home.
Good grief.
Amazing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Miller. It sounds like you've been really busy and good deal. Thank you.
He's a keeper.
Great job.
Moving on, nursing report. Aaron, are you there?
Erin is not here, Commissioner Wallen. She is currently staffed in. They're a little shorthanded right now. I'm happy to go over her report and take any questions back to her.
John. Good job.
Okay.
All right. So this is just validation of the effectiveness of the COVID vaccine clinic. Closed out with over 17,800 vaccines administered. A monumental effort by all involved, Aaron spearheading. Case rate currently is 37 per 100,000, well below that projected target of about 50 per 100,000 that was set out several months ago. So it looks like the vaccine clinic had a very significant impact on our current low case rate. We want to move to the next slide. So as I mentioned, she's shorthanded, nursing in general, and we're feeling it across the board, but I think in nursing in general, she's currently has management positions that are in need of being filled, as well as a trauma coordinator. In order for us to maintain that trauma program, got to have that person. So she's actively recruiting for that. We are saying goodbye to Jolene Levine as the ICU manager. She'll be sorely missed, was a very effective manager and partner for all involved. Ancillary support needs are currently CNAs, ED techs, MAs, surgical techs, respiratory therapists. And then frontline nursing needs, departments that are kind of in a significant need status: hospice, ICU, ED, med-surg, clinics, labor and delivery, pretty much everyone. So from our DME survey, we had some areas of opportunity identified. We have started those corrective action plans. We are already auditing every one of these processes, and we're concurrent with the process taking place. We are getting that real-time feedback into frontline staff and managers. So chiefly the care of the restrained patient. We have been seeing in our auditing that we have had improvement in our documentation, which was initially what was one of our biggest challenges there. For procedural moderate sedation, we have implemented several additional screening tools to make sure that that assessment's happening completely. We worked across the board with our providers and nursing leaders to make sure that we had a good, effective screening plan in place for that workflow. And then for patient safety companions, highly important for us, and something that we are actively working on, not just from a process standpoint, but also we're looking at how can we utilize additional people in this work. Our chief have to around that is that anyone who is identified as a high-risk patient, especially a high-risk suicide ideation patient, has a staff member sitting with them, eyes on at all times. And there are several big projects that are in progress. We have been working with the family birthplace in a series of workshops. It's been chiefly that team, but also with input of ELT, with the quality team and other departments kind of across the board. It's been an all hands on deck approach to maximizing that division and making sure that they have the staff, resources, training, everything they need to do to be as successful as possible. Staffing currently is one of their bigger challenges. With her team, she's also working on having a consolidated philosophy of nursing practice, a leadership identity, if you will. It's something that we're working on as an organization, but kind of on a micro level with her, with the nursing division. She wants to make sure that she's creating a leadership culture where new leaders are coming in, held to that initial expectation and performance review that existing nursing leaders would be as well. And then finally on this other work in progress, nurse job descriptions. Again, this is something across the board we're looking at across the entire organization, but especially in nursing and given some of the challenges in recruiting that healthcare's across the board having with recruiting nurses, this is just a key component to that. And the charge nurse collaborative. So making sure that there is some cross functionality between charge nurses and really putting some ownership back into the charge nurses lap and letting them really be an active player in how they can foster their leadership, professional development, and also whenever there are shortages, resource crunches in people, that there's a lot more transportability across departments amongst those folks. So these are some of the bigger projects that she's working on. There's a whole slew of smaller ones I can attest to because I'm on them too. Are there any questions regarding her report? All right. And it looks like I'm up next.
Now the time. Let's go. Let's ask.
No, but I have no question, but I just think part of the reason that Whidbey Island has been able to keep their COVID rate down is because Erin got our vaccination clinic running as quickly as she could and as efficiently as humanly possible, and the community was well aware of it, utilized it, and many kudos to her for her foresight and her organization relative to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and John, you're filling in for her, but you don't get those kudos.
Yes, sir.
Years are yet to come.
Maybe.
God. All right. All right, thank you. I'll take that back to her. I know she'll appreciate hearing that. From the quality standpoint, so right now, in terms of our quality management system, not a whole lot of changes in that executive summary. And I do remind everyone that the executive summary and the accompanying dashboards, page 67 through 77 in the packet, And I'll cover that in high-level detail, and happy to circle back on any questions or clarifications that you have. No real changes from the previous month, just because of that late reporting period that we did as the inaugural month. So we're already seeing movement in several of our measures, and definitely we'll highlight those next month. At the time of our of sending this out, we were on track in terms of our across the board KPI and departmental reporting, with the exception of one department, which is now up to date. We've had a chance to review the data, and as verified by some of our initial review, and this was laboratory, no discrepant pathology reports. Blood utilization outside of MAC, which is as expected and as appropriate, is very conservative, which is where it needs to be, because we're currently nationwide looking at a bit of a blood shortage. So stewardship of those resources is still a very acute focus for our blood bank. We have messaged, also incidentally, we've messaged that out to our providers through the Med Staff Service Office, just to make sure everybody understands that when we can keep our utilization down to initial ordering of 1 unit at a time, to do so. And so far that's gone very well. From a patient experience standpoint, our composite mean at the time of reporting was 4.6, which is pretty good. And I do want to emphasize that that is pretty good for a new system of measurement and a wider net being cast for patient response. And we're only now 7 months into this. So that 4.6 out of 5 is something definitely for us to hang our hat on. But I do want to report that while that's great, from a national percentile rank standpoint, that still puts us in the 6th percentile, just because of the great amount of compression in this score. Everyone's working on this. Everyone's pulling out all the stops to try to get those scores up. And usually at the outset of this is a little bit of a slow climb. Today, the score is 4.62. And just that 0.2 moved us up to the 9th percentile rank. So small changes make huge impacts into our percentile ranking. And the same goes for our ED ranking as well. When we report, at my last report on this, and this is on the executive summary, I believe they were in the 23 percentile rank. Well, their score right now is puts them in the 37th percentile. So that's how much of an increase that little movement has made. We want to celebrate that. We're not yet going to rest on our laurels because it's only been a month, but we are watching that with great interest. We are continuing to message tactics to each one of our departments on how they can get those scores up, maintain the performance of those scores. The feedback that we are gleaning from our data is, and also from patient comments that come to us either from voicemail or through written media, is that the biggest negative impactors we've got on our overall score at the moment, delays in getting appointments, and Dr. Miller talked a little bit about the challenges that we've got in terms of getting those appointments. There's a lot of impactors into that. There's staffing, there's it probably being the biggest one, staffing. Long wait times when on the phone or getting through when calling. Some of this has to do with some of the challenges that IT has been addressing through the phone system, but this also ties into the staffing. You can have the best phone system in the world, you still have to have enough people to answer the phones. Next slide, please. So from our DNV accreditation update, we just got word back yesterday that we had final acceptance by DNV of our corrective action plans. That's a very important milestone for us, because what that means is that what we're doing is considered on track and appropriate to close those out. And we are expecting a return on-site visit approximately August 11th, somewhere in that neighborhood. Once they've visited and once they've verified that all of our plans meet their closure expectation, then we'll have those findings downgraded appropriately, and then we will officially receive our accreditation from DNV. And we are estimating that tentatively to happen in August. The good news on our corrective action plans is that even now, a large number of them have already been closed. And most every one of them have had significant progress made on that. So I don't believe that anything at this point in time is sitting idle. They're all underway. Are there any questions on either my report or on the executive summary or dashboards?
John, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Glad you are here. And you are really taking us through this DNLV or DNV or whatever you call it, the program.
Thanks, Ron.
You get part of the kudos now.
Oh, come on.
We have to wait till it's actually certified.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you get 20% of.
20%.
Fair enough.
Well done.
Thank you, John.
Good job.
So now we've set the table for Brett in IT.
Yeah. No.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We'll get the slides up here. Thank you. All right. So the last time I gave you kind of a security status update was back in March. So I wanted to provide you a current status of where we're at. And if you remember, I had set this up so that you understand the dimensions of the work that we're doing as it relates to the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So I just wanted to hit this slide again, because this is what the best practices approach in ensuring that your organization remains, and your data more specifically, remains safe. So this is the key I'm using to show you where each thing fits into that larger plan. So next slide. So for the second quarter, one of the things that we had a number of things that we completed actually. If you recall, we implemented towards the beginning of the year, we started the implementation of a very broad but deep security platform called CrowdStrike that has been fully deployed and has been running very well. And again, we have people in different parts of the world who are monitoring our network 24/7 and making sure if anything happens that they respond to it instantaneously and actively looking for things through artificial intelligence that might be a threat to us. So we've got a good defense system there, and that's fully implemented and live. Proofpoint was a product that we purchased to help with our overall security awareness in the organization. So how do we do education? Well, they provide us hundreds of templates on different forms of communication or education. And we have in the second quarter finished providing every employee the basics on phishing. So in fact, the program was called Introduction to Phishing. So everyone was required to do that education as a part of HealthStream. We did a simulated phishing attack, and while the number I'm about to give you is a little jarring on the number of folks that got caught in our simulated phishing attack, I just want to tell you that it's very normal when you first start this kind of awareness campaign to have C numbers like this. But we had about a 30% failure rate of the folks that kind of got caught with the 3 different kinds of emails that we sent out. So it was random to see who might be fooled by our own test on some fake phishing attacks. And over time, and what happens when they fail, if they click the link or if they do something they're not supposed to, it just takes them to a web page saying, oops, you know, this is Whidbey Health, and here's where you missed an opportunity, and just kind of to point out what they could have seen. So supportive in that respect, kind of points them back to the education that they've probably already taken. And we will be doing this simulated phishing attacks every quarter through the next several years. So gearing up for our next one. We'll keep them simple as we get started. But this tool gives us both the education as well as the ability to do simulated phishing attacks. So we are moving with Proofpoint. Regular system patching. So security patches come out all the time. In fact, there's what they call a 0-day out right now. That's a Microsoft threat to print servers. And 0-day means that we have a 0-day notice and we need to respond to it immediately. And so we have now got a utility in place to allow us to more readily and easily update all of our computers with the most recent patches, at least on a monthly basis. And in this case of a 0-day, we'll be doing it overnight tonight during our downtime. So the only thing that's not quite completed yet is we still have some servers that we're finishing up, catching them up to the most current security patches, and we'll be done with those soon. And then we'll just be on a regular basis. Everybody will get an update at the same time, and we'll stay current going forward very easily. Next slide. So we have hired our security architect. He actually starts Monday. Comes with quite an impressive military background in security and a great education to go with it. So looking forward to him getting started. His name is Wes Persons. He was actually a contractor here with us for the last few months, which has made it easy for us to identify him and sort of kick the tires. We're very excited about him starting and his contributions to helping us deal with all the different projects and all the different remediation efforts and policies that need to be written, all those kinds of things. Can't wait for him to get started. And then finally, we just finished what's called a vulnerability scan. And there's two types of security scans that we do. Vulnerability, which is like looking from the inside out, and penetration testing, or sometimes you hear it is called pen testing, and that's sort of an artificial attack from the outside. So we finished our inside scan and we're reviewing our results now, and we'll be doing the vulnerability scan on a regular basis as well, probably quarterly going forward, looking for our own holes. And we do that through a third-party company called Synergistic that has a specific expertise in trying to identify where those threats might be, where those risk points might be in our network. So moving into the third quarter, we are in the process of implementing Duo, which is our multi-factor authentication solution. And we're starting off with this and setting that up with our VPN connections for those folks who work remotely. This was also recommended by our cybersecurity insurance company, and they had highly recommended, actually it's a best practice standard anyway, but certainly starting with VPN, and that's what we're doing here. And if you recall, multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication in this particular case just helps to complement the password that you know that you're going to type in with another form of authentication. In this particular case, one example would be that your phone would ring when you're trying to log in and let you know, your smartphone would say, somebody's trying to log into this computer from this location to your computer. Is that you? Yes or no? If you're in a meeting and it shows that somebody's trying to log in from China, it's probably not you. You probably want to say no. But it just helps to, if somebody did steal your password, they're still going to have this challenge to go through as well to keep them from getting in, because passwords can be stolen. So that extra fortification is going in, and then we'll expand the use of Duo to other areas of remote access and web-based security. Office 365 project, we got that started a while back here, but we only deployed it to about 80 folks in the organization. So we are now going to ramp up to get this completed across the entire organization. And while Office 365 brings with it not only the more modern Microsoft Office products, it does provide a whole lot of security elements with it as well, including email security and the ability to encrypt email that contains protected health information or protected personally identifiable information automatically. You don't have to do anything. It's going to scan your email and your attachments. If it finds something, it'll encrypt it and let the person on the receiving end know to go to this website to look at this information. And it'll just make keeping that information more secure. So that's why Office 365 is on this list from a security standpoint. And then with Office 365, we're getting a tool that will help us deploy Office 365, but it is a fully functional mobile application or mobile device management platform. And in very simple terms, if we put one of our applications or access to our information or our network on your personal device, we want to make sure that how you get there is secure, and if anything you access ends up on your device, that data is secure as well. And so this utility will allow us to be able to control that. And once we get done with Office 365, we will deploy Intune on all the bring your own devices that people have, whether it's tablets or cell phones or whatever, and make sure that our data remains secure, whether it's directly in control within our devices or on our employees' devices. And finally, we're going to be wrapping up some changes to our policy, our password policy, and this came as a recommendation from our state auditors, and some recent changes from NIST on our password formatting. And so we are going to make the password just a little bit longer, the requirements a little bit longer, 11 characters versus 8, but actually relaxing a few other ones that NIST has discovered over the years that, you know, requiring people to change their password frequently actually created more security risks than solved them. So while we made one thing a little bit more, we're actually making some other things a little bit less. And those that change will be going live here at the end of this month. But coupled with that, we're going to also make it easier for all of our employees if they forget their password and it's the middle of the night or weekend or whatever, where we may not have IT staff readily available to answer a phone call, they can now go out to a website and reset their password themselves. They can do this day, night, anytime, and it'll just make that process a little easier. So we're actually deploying that first with the requirements for the new password formatting. And then at the end of this month, we'll flip the switch on the back end system and we'll be live on the new password format. Next slide. So looking beyond the third quarter, at the end of this year and rolling into the top of next year, our new security architects got a whole list of security policies that we're going to be working on. We're going to be doing that, scheduling that penetration testing. Again, that's the simulated threat from the outside to see what kind of holes can be seen from the outside. We will be doing better controls over how we create even user accounts in the organization. And instead of just copying, Jane Doe's access for John Smith as he enters the organization, we're going to do it based on best practices for the role, and that'll simplify things quite significantly and ensure that there's consistency in how we allow people access to different things. Inventory management, just understanding where things are at and what we have in the organization in case something that is inappropriate all of a sudden pops up. And we'll talk about that in another day and some other things that the bad guys can do there. Single sign-on, we're actually got a demo coming up here to look at that, again, to make it very easy to deal with multiple passwords for all these different systems through the use of a tool that will handle all your password authentication. And then even simplifying things by allowing an individual, especially on the clinical floors, to go from computer to computer, tap a little fob on the side of the monitor, and everything that they're working on the computer over there is now right on the computer where they're at, and they can move around the organization and their work follows them and makes the workflow for clinicians significantly better. So very excited about that, but it'll also ensure that we stay secure because they're not having to memorize a whole bunch of passwords and have to log in a whole bunch of times over and over again. And then in the event that something bad does happen, we need a response plan. So we're going to be developing a security incident response plan, and this will be bringing to you at some time in the future to review, sort of like a disaster recovery plan. What do we do if? Let's see, talked about security policies, data loss prevention, how do we control the data, for example, on a thumb drive? If you come into your office and you plug in a thumb drive, how do we ensure that that data is encrypted in case you accidentally drop it in the parking lot and somebody picks it up and maybe there's salary information or some sensitive patient information on that, and this will happen automatically. Disaster recovery plan, that's fairly obvious. And then kind of a redesign of our core security platform. When you authenticate to the network, that's happening in Active Directory, Microsoft Active Directory, and it's time for us to look at overhauling that whole platform. So that'll be coming up. I think I'm probably getting to the end here. All right, so final slide here, next steps. So like you saw last year, we had a security assessment by Synergistic that gave you a review of where we're at, where our vulnerabilities are at, what the levels of risk are, and so on. So we're going to do that again. We're going to do that every year. And that'll be starting in November. So hopefully in the December board meeting, I can come and show you from last year to this year, what progress have we made besides just my report. This will be an independent auditor talking about what progress we've made and what we need to target and prioritize going forward beyond that. I'll be delivering a security strategy, so we have a roadmap of what we plan to be doing over the next several years, and then doing an investment analysis as to what are those things going to cost, how do we plan to budget for them, so that we make the best financial decisions that we can with those going forward. So that's my report.
You are right.
How did we manage without you? Other than the phone system, which still is a mess.
It's a mess,
Yeah.
but
And just out of curiosity, how many computers are you dealing with all of these upgrades and things that have to be done?
So we're talking about right around 1,000 or so computers that we have around our organization that we need to manage. And then, you know, about whatever, 750 users that work on those. So, and everything's changing all the time. People are changing, the technology is changing. And so, and then the bad guys are always changing. So it's an interesting moving target.
It sounds like job security to me.
Not necessarily one we would all prefer, but yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of work going forward.
you are right. He is amazing, smart, intelligent person. We've never had a CIO like this.
No, we haven't.
And so it's really nice to have him.
Someone who's a real person too.
Yes, that's why we like him.
Thank you, Brett.
By the way, Ron, I did get, we had talked on the side before the meeting started about our cyber insurance. So there's separate insurance policies that companies get nowadays, that in the event that something bad happens, you have insurance to help cover some of the fallout from that. And we have a policy that renews every year, and I'm currently reviewing ours to make sure that all the bases are covered, all the different kind of situations we might run into where we might need to fall back on insurance are accounted for in that policy. And right now it looks like they are, but I will be following up with the board with some of those, kind of a quick summary. Here's what this policy covers for us, and this is what it means if something bad were to happen. So my job is to keep something bad from happening, but it's nice to have that safety net in the event that something does. That's why you buy insurance, right? So.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do those insurance companies come in and audit also so that they can see what their risk is and then help drive the system as well?
So they haven't. To this point, we get an annual questionnaire. So tell us where you're at with, you know, this element and that element and this element. However, it's my understanding that that will be changing, that we will start getting some kind of audit. Not exactly sure. They haven't been very clear on what that might look like, but I do predict that in the next year or two, that will probably change a little bit. And we will see somebody coming, visiting, saying, can you show me?
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, facility upgrade updates. Tim.
Yes, thank you. Facilities, well, we've been extremely busy between DMV and the hot weather and trying to keep things. But I think the engineering team has done a great job. We kept during the heat wave and you know, we've struggled, but the guys have done a great job. And first of all, I want to just recognize them for that hard work. But with that, we are still waiting on the air handler for the lobby. So that has been ordered. Hopefully sometime by the end of the month or beginning of next month, we'll be looking at getting that installed. We are replacing the air handler down at Clinton. That one has also failed and is continuing tripping out. We're doing our best to keep that running and that building cool, but we do have to replace that air handler. We did complete the Freeland furnace and cooling upgrade, put a heat pump down there, so we'll see some efficiencies also gained down there. Did some rounding around the clinics on Friday and yesterday, and I know that Freeland was much more comfortable. They were almost saying it was almost too cold, so positive. We have, as far as our grants that were received for some of our upgrades, we have selected our boilers and our chillers, so it has been approved so that those items could be ordered, and then we can start moving on with those projects. So that's a positive, very positive. Other things, I do want to thank Roger and EMS and Chris Tumlin and Sean Levine. They did give the maintenance team one of their ambulances that we're just getting relabeled and going to be setting that up as a maintenance vehicle to help create efficiencies. We're going to set that up with tools and all the things that we need so that when the guys go out to the clinics, they have everything right there. We don't have to run back and forth in case we don't have something. We'll have a rig that will be completely set up with wrenches and drills and ladders and plumbing equipment and the things that they will need to do those repairs as needed.
What type of ambulance?
They're gonna have the lights on too?
They might be at times. It's gonna clearly state maintenance on there. The lights are gonna be blacked out, but it clearly it'll have our Whidbey Health logo, but it'll say maintenance vehicle so that nobody confuses and thinks that we're just driving by. The D&V, as John mentioned, we've had a lot of stuff that had to be completed for facilities. The survey went very well for facilities overall. Documentation was extremely well. The two biggest things is our suppression system in the hood in the kitchen. That item is about 6 to 8 weeks out, but we have received 2 bids and are working forward with getting that completed. Currently, we have a wet, so if there's a grease fire down there, water actually will be released on the stove and the griddles, which is an unsafe condition. But a lot of older kitchens have those been grandfathered in over the years, but we are having to update that at this time. So that'll be happening in the near future. But otherwise, most of the work for the DMV has been completed. Some small policy additions and some verbiage changes and some things changed on round sheets and just some checks that we're doing. So a lot of work been done with that. As far as the USDA loan, Darla O'Connor actually with the USDA paid a surprise visit on Friday, and she left. She was very happy to see that we were not actually doing construction, and she finalized some paperwork, and she's currently on vacation, but we're making a couple changes. So hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be seeing approval on that contract so that we can get Aldridge on board and complete pricing for phase 1 of that project. Seclusion room and floral room. So just took the plan review checks into the city yesterday so that can pay for so they can complete their plan review. We did receive comments back from Renee at the city on the seclusion room, so we're working through those details right now. Hopefully we get this completed in the next few weeks so that we can get that final approval from the Department of Health. Do have 4 contractors that are interested in these projects so that we can hopefully get our floral back up and running and then have our seclusion room in the ED, which will greatly help with some of our behavioral health issues that we see often in the emergency room. As Dr. Miller alluded to, we are also doing a lot of work preparing the clinics for the RHC survey. So just kind of going through all the clinics and making sure everything is where it needs to be to prep for that as far as the facility side of things. And then we are finishing up a physician sleep room in the admin hallway. We put carpeting in, a new lock in, some new lighting painted. Just waiting on the furniture at this time. And so that'll be a nice little addition that hopefully will help the physicians out to have a nice to escape to. And then finally, just an update, next Wednesday, we'll be having our employee picnic for all staff.
Yeah.
It'll be in the courtyard, and look forward to anybody that wants to be there. It'll be a good time. That's all I have. I'm glad to answer any questions if you have any.
We are going to serve. You are more than welcome to come and join the festivities. It's 11:30 to 2:30. And I think you need to show up.
Okay.
Show up.
You have to have our healthcare workers card.
Yeah, you gotta have a card that
Food handler's permit.
but that is gonna be fun. We haven't had one of those in a long time.
It's about time.
Thank you, Tim.
So that's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Tim, just a small thing, maybe because I haven't been in the hospital very much lately, as I walked down the hall from the lobby to the administrative wing, I noticed that we no longer have purple walls in that area, and it was much more refreshing and it felt good. As I said, I don't know how long ago it was done, but it looks very nice, that kind of aqua-y green, whatever color it is. Looks lovely.
Thank you. We're trying to do as we can, little areas to just kind of, freshen things up and make it look a little bit better until we can get to our lobby remodel. So want to have a nice, inviting environment for our patients and visitors. So.
Well, this visitor noticed it.
Any other questions for Tim? Any comments? Thank you, Tim. So moving on to Kevin, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Commissioner Wallen. All right, so let's talk through some of the things that we've been doing recently on the strategic initiatives. So one of the core things that we've been involved in is working. So the executive leadership team has, with a lot of rigor, been working through a strategic plan for the next 5 years. Really focused in on what the most important goals are that are aligned with our mission and vision, and the objectives that will have to be met in order to reach those goals. And ultimately, in the short term, the initiatives that we will have to focus on in order to meet those initiatives. They're at a point in this where we should here in the next week be able to give you as a board an overview of that. There are a few key things that are still outstanding on that we'll be working on. One of those will be the training and support of our frontline leaders and staff that will be necessary in order to actually initiate these initiatives or to successfully complete them. And also a focus in on what are the metrics that will help us to see our progress and if we are in fact achieving those key things that we're looking to do on the strategic initiatives. And then this includes a list of some of the key things that as far as objectives are starting to formulate. So the accreditation and the things that we're pursuing there. Also, the strengthening of retention and recruiting and onboarding practices as we're thinking about our people and how we better take care of them and find the people that we will need. Also, the experience that our patients have and what we need to do and what coordination needs to take place to deliver a great experience for them. Also, ensuring that the evolving and changing needs of our community are being met and that we're doing this in a financially sustainable way. So core things that are themes that we're seeing in that strategic planning. Next slide. So also, we've been focused in on denials management and looking to make sure that we have a sustainable system in place that allows our team to not only efficiently take care of denials when they happen, but also to reduce them and keep them from happening in the first place. And we're thrilled to see that that those efforts are paying off. We are performing better than our region, albeit we recognize we've still got work to do there. So some of the key things that we've been doing, we developed our own spreadsheets so that we were able to track the specific rejections and denials that we needed to work and that pose greater risk to us in terms of just trends that are taking place in denials. And so working with that, we've been able to identify the specific departments, the specific payers, the types of denials, and really hone in on that. So we've formed teams and been working closely with the departments, not only to resolve them, but also to focus in on what we need to do to prevent them from happening further. And a big part of that is, now that we're emerging out of COVID, actually taking leadership from patient financial services and from our coding team and going and meeting with some of the managers that they're working with. It's interesting that after this experience that some of them have never met each other. We have new players on the team, people that have been promoted. And so we're reestablishing some of those important relationships, which is really paying off because now the emails have transitioned over to phone calls and people working more closely with each other. Also, taking that team approach is helping to sort out who has responsibility for what and making sure that the team is able in a collective manner to really understand the strains and the pressures and the difficulties that one another are under and render better support. And it's been really gratifying to see that taking place. Okay, so then also focusing in more on the patient experience side of these strategic initiatives. One of those has been in on diagnostic imaging, going through a performance improvement initiative there. We looked at it and realized that our turn times were too long and also that our backlog was too high. And so we dove in and did our root cause analysis to determine why was that taking place and what was causing the delays. And after we did that, we went through and reworked the workflow to make sure that we addressed those issues. And we discovered in there that there were also some real concerns about the experience that our patient had when they walked in the door through that registration process. So we revamped the registration process and looked to be a lot more proactive in how we, behind the scenes, take care of the information and make sure that the orders are correct and that things are scheduled in a timely manner so that that individuals have a much better experience in diagnostic imaging. Our turn times are much faster, and that we've reduced that backlog to a reasonable range. So that is a work in progress, and we're on the latter end of that. And so we're monitoring now to see that it's working and to ensure that our turn times are where we want them and our patients are having the kind of experience we want them to. And then several others have alluded to the family birthplace and the work that was done there. It's interesting to see how the success that we have sometimes leads to challenges as demand has grown and as that practice has grown significantly. It has put them under some strain. They have done a fantastic job taking care of our patients, But because of the growth in demand and the growth in members, that has led to sacrifices and strain on our providers and our nursing staff. And so that opportunity was a chance to bring those teams together and work through the support and changes that would be needed in order to make sure that that practice can sustain. So those are some of the key things that we were working with. So with that, I'll turn it back to you for questions.
Yeah, I do have a question, Kevin, having to do with, you know, the approval of the write-offs and the vouchers early on in our meeting, and noticing, you know, the really significant decrease there. Would you say that that was related to the work in the billing section that you have been involved with the other team members there?
I hope so, but I don't know. And so I will have to look into that more closely. I know that the teams from coding and also patient financial services have really increased the level of vigilance. And so I would hope that, yes, there's a direct correlation there, but I better find out before I say anything definitive.
I was just wondering if there was a measure that we could use to, you know, give kudos to the team in terms of what they have been doing, and that we actually see it now in dollars and cents.
Yeah, we'll take a closer look at that and see, because they have been doing some great work.
I think part of that too is getting the uninsured on insurances. That has helped tremendously. Also things like our GPO contract, where we're saving a lot of money on our supplies and our things along. It's a multifaceted thing, but yeah.
I just wanted to find a place where we could give kudos.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, actually, I think the board has gone through all the kudos that were allowed.
Oh, geez, come on.
And so I think we've used them all up, because everybody did such a great job out there. They got all the extra kudos, and now we're down to
me,
the admin report.
But I gotta say, thank you to the employees. And through this time is really challenging. This time we're seeing volumes going up. We've never seen volumes like this before. Never have seen volumes like this before. We're seeing this being that our employees are working longer, they're working harder, they're doing things beyond what they're typically done. So really, thank you to the employees. That really is.
Well, what you notice too, Ron, is that, you know, a lot of the employees, the people that you have, the staff, they take ownership. I mean, it's not just a job. They take pride in what they're doing here, and it's something that I hadn't seen in the past that much. That I really appreciate the attitude that the staff has, that they're given the ability to have ownership. I mean, you know, I think you've done a good job there on doing that and hiring the right people that really come together, they care about it.
It goes from executives, Aaron, our CNO. It goes down to our managers, who, for example, Debbie in ER. It goes to our supervisors, down to Cabot and down to Freeland, and it goes down to staff everywhere. That's pretty impressive. Let's see, employee picnic was already talked about. The employee Island County Fair, if you are more than welcome to join us anytime, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's from, I think it's 9:30 to 7:30. Is that right, Aaron? Melanie? but,
That is correct.
Yep. So we are gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. We are gonna be working, some shifts, but, along with
Our EMS group will have a booth.
and so that is gonna be important.
Will we be talking about the levy at all while we're down there?
I think we'll be responding to questions that may get asked, and
Some sort of handout?
if there is factual information on the levy.
Because the fair, that counts as vacation time.
So we will have, now, don't really know about that, a handout, but we will have statements.
Okay, good.
See here, I have, as you know, last month or last meeting, we talked about United Healthcare, their ER policy, and that's gone into effect. To where the United Healthcare will be deciding whether your ER visit's significant enough. They can deny that. I want to tell you that the AHA, American Hospital Association, the American College of Emergency Physicians, have all joined together to write a letter to United Healthcare CEO. And that was very good at stating it, which basically will say patients are not medical experts and should not be expected to self-diagnose during what they believe is a medical emergency. Threatening patients with a financial penalty for making the wrong decisions could have a chilling effect on seeking emergency care. Very true.
Well, and what does our ambulances do? You know,
Exactly.
who's responsible then? They're gonna have to bring them someplace, to the outpatient clinic? Don't think so.
It's ridiculous. It's truly ridiculous.
So are we,
You need pre-authorization before they do that.
No. This is good.
so are we, taking United Healthcare patients?
We are taking them. We have taken them. We will continue to see them. We will continue to fight for them. We will see if we get them denied in our ER, we will fight it.
Isn't this something to take up with the inspector, health,
Yeah.
insurance inspector?
So every
Insurance secretary?
inspector, whatever you call them,
Insurance commissioner?
insurance commissioner from each state is getting inundated. These are happening. But let me, then, to the other effect, let me give you this nice letter from, from a patient who basically said, I've never needed medical attention at your hospital, but on May 22nd, I went to the ER. I had been treated earlier for breast cancer while I was at my home in Arizona. Not only was I very ill, but every single person I entered from entering and exiting your facility. I was so blessed to find Dr. Mary Oman on duty that Saturday night. A breast surgeon appreciated. She was beyond excellent and saved me from having to be transferred to the
Are we done here, or?
Jay, can you unmute the phone, please, from the computer?
It doesn't even look like they're on there at all.
I think they left the call.
Well, folks, I declare the meeting adjourned.
I don't think you're allowed to.
They got logged out. They're getting back on right now.
Okay.
Dr. Miller, do you have your guitar with you? You know, a little entertainment while we're waiting.
I don't think you'd like me to entertain you with a guitar. That is not something I've ever learned how to play. Nor is my singing ability very good either. Sorry. But those 7 questions about COVID that you answered look fine to me, by the way.
Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate it. John, thanks for your update on the DNV for the fair. That was great also.
Absolutely.
Tim, thanks for your help with the signage. Brett, nice to see you.
Hi, everybody. It's the conference room.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear the conference room.
Okay.
So it's now audio only.
Yeah, that's really strange. Okay.
Eric?
Oh, no. So you had a question?
Yeah, well, do you want to just do a little bit of an update review of what you just read?
Well, yeah. So what I was just reading was this very nice letter written to us by a employee or by a patient that was really just seen by our surgeon, really was given great care, as we've always and she, for a token of her appreciation, gave us $500 to the foundation. But more importantly, it just goes to show really the caring that our staff has, caring that we give in our treatment of our patients.
Okay, so I had 2 things that I was wondering about. One was what's the status of the property that we have?
So we have discussing that in executive session.
Okay, then I'll withdraw that question. But the second is when we had our work session last week or the week before, one of the things that came up had to do with diversity and a diversity program that, you know, we needed to look at policies and things. And I wondered if you'd been updated on that and if there were some plans.
So we haven't done that. I've been updated really quickly by staff. And so Kevin look forward to this. Very well, we'll look into it.
Please do.
Okay. Is that it? Do you have anything else you need to?
So are we going into executive session?
Yep, so we'll go into the executive session. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss current and potential litigation and to discuss the potential sale of real property.
Well, we need to come back to a meeting then to make a decision.
No, we won't have any decision making afterwards.
Okay.
We can actually adjourn this meeting.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We are adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in with us.